Dear beloved viewers, welcome back. Before we took a short break, I was discussing nisab for cash and near cash assets. And we mentioned that the nisab is either the equivalent value of 85 grams of gold or the value of 595 grams of silver. Which one should we use? There's a huge debate among the past and contemporary scholars. The values of these two metals by the time of the Prophet was near closer, but not that very close, but somehow closer compared to what we have now. There is a huge difference in terms of price between 1 gram of gold and 1 gram of silver. And the debate is still there, but I don't want to indulge you into this scholarly debate. I want to simply say that some scholars prefer gold as a benchmark to determine whether your wealth has reached a nisab. This is acceptable benchmark. Can use gold. So a person who has cash, he can check how much is the value of 85 grams of gold and in terms of money, and if that amount is equivalent to the amount of cash that he has, or maybe he has more, then that is, he is supposed to pay zakat. And this view is acceptable. And this view is followed by majority of scholars in Misr, in Egypt. It is followed by majority of scholars in Malaysia. It is followed by majority of scholars in Indonesia and other countries. The other view of scholar is to use silver. And they say that silver is better because it provides maximum benefit to the poor. That is to say, if you use silver, a lot of people will be required to pay zakat, and in that regard, a lot of poor people will benefit. And we shall see what is the today's value of silver and gold for nisab purposes. I will explain, and you will see there's a huge difference between these two metals. So you can also follow this view, whereby you calculate your zakat based on a benchmark of 595 grams of silver, the equivalent of that in cash. If you have that amount of money or more, then you can pay zakat based on the benchmark of silver. This is also an acceptable view. And this view is followed and recommended by scholars in Saudi Arabia and in other countries. So if you look at what is the current value of 85 grams of gold, gold keeps on varies, but as I record this session, as of today, the value of 85 grams of gold is around Kenya shilling 801,335. So that is the value of 85 grams of gold. So a person will have a cash that has reached this amount or more. Now he should really watch if it fulfills other conditions, because if you have wealth that is equivalent to this amount, okay, that is a clear indication that you already possess the nisab. But now we need to check if it fulfills the other condition. But this is for those who would prefer to go with the standard, with the gold standard for their zakat computation. For those who would like to use silver standard, 595 grams of gold is equivalent to 63,665. You can see the difference is too far away. One is in thousands, is in 800 and 1,635. And the other one is 63,665. So this is also acceptable. If you use silver standard, then, and you have the cash and near cash assets worthy this much, then they have reached nisab. They have reached nisab. So the next criteria that we'll need to look at is whether this cash, the equivalent of gold or the equivalent of silver, have stayed with you for a year. Has it stayed with you for a year or not? In this respect of has it stayed with you for a year, sometimes people get confused. What does it mean to stay with you for a year? Does it mean to have stayed under the pillow or in a bank account for a year? You haven't touched it? Or it is possible that you had that money and maybe at a point in time you took that money, you loaned it to your brother, and then he returned to you at some point. In this second scenario, has it also stayed with you for a year? The answer is yes. Whether it had stayed idle, you didn't touch it for a year, that means it has completed hawl. Or if it had been there at some point, maybe 6 months after you took it, you lent it to some of your friends, and then later on they paid you, we still consider that money to have stayed with you for a year, because that is a debt, and the debt is a cash debt is also considered as near cash. If it is recoverable, that you know, I'll get paid, I'll get it back. So let me give you an example. And this is an example for a category of employee. You are an employee. You get a salary. And some of your money, you spend it for your basic needs and others, and you save some of your money. So that's cash which you have saved either in a bank account or at home, wherever you put it. But you have some cash you are saving somewhere. Now, if you have a cash that has reached nisab, for instance, if you're using a gold standard, this time of recording, if it has reached 801,635, if you have that cash, that knows that that money has already reached a nisab. We simply have to look at another condition, whether that amount of money will stay with you for a full year. If it has stayed with you for a full year or more than that, if you're using gold standard, you have to pay zakat of it. If you're using a silver standard, that means if you have a saving that is worth 63,000, 665 that has stayed with you for a full year, 12 months, then that cash or near cash assets, you have to pay zakat to it. So you as an employee, or you save maybe for your kid. These days, we save, open accounts and put money for our kids. And if that money has reached the level of one of this standard that you believe in to be your standard for zakat computation, that you are following, then you will have to pay zakat. Provided, as I said, there is no debt out of that money. That money 100% belongs to you. If there is a debt or you have a debt, then we will have to deduct what is due to others, and the net amount is what we will have to calculate zakat rate on it. So we come to the second or another point here. After looking at the nisab, after looking at the hawl, after looking at the issue of if you have a debt and whether you have deducted or not. So if you have debts of others, you have to deduct. But if yourself, you are a creditor, you have loaned out money to others, you have to include it. So this is Khalfan, has 1 million, but also he has another millions that he loaned to other people. That means I have 2 millions. In Sharia point of view, for zakat calculation, that means you have 2 millions. And this is far way beyond the nisab. And if this amount of money, okay, cash and the near cash, the money that I loaned, is recoverable and stayed for a year, I'll have to pay zakat on it. I hope this simple example is quite clear. Now, how much do you pay out of this? Subhanallah. Very small amount. Very small amount. If you follow Hijrah calendar, your year that you follow, and for us Muslim, we should follow Hijri calendar. If we follow Hijri calendar for calculations purpose, we pay 2.5%. Subhanallah. Very small amount, 2.5%. If you look at our modern rates in taxation, I even struggle to recall, is there any tax rate of 2.5%? Most of the tax rates are actually quite higher, from 5%, withholding taxes and you name it, to the highest ones, payees and others. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just declared just 2.5%. Give it to the specific categories of people that He chose to be given. So if you follow Hijri calendar, your zakat calculation period is Hijriya, you pay 2.5. But if you follow Miladiya, you follow Gregorian calendar of January to December, the rate increased a bit, very slightly. It is 2.55%. It is 2.577%. Approximately 2.58. So the only difference between the Hijriya and the Miladiya is that 8 next to 5. Miladiya, you pay more because the total number of days in the Miladiya calendars are more than Hijriya. In Miladiya, we have around 358 there, total number of our annual year. But Miladiya, it has more. It is between 365 to 366. So the zakat rate, beloved viewer, zakat rate will depend with whether you calculate your zakat following which year. Are you calculating zakat based on Hijriya or based on Miladiya? And sometimes this is an area I see many people makes mistake. They follow January to December and they use 2.5. That is wrong. Clearly wrong computation. The right computation for Miladiya is 2.58. If you use Islamic calendar, that is when you use 2.5%. I hope this is clear. We have come to an end of this episode, but not an end to this discussion on cash. In the next episode, I will discuss other kinds of cash that is eligible for zakat under these categories. In today's, I just gave an example of an employee, somebody who saved his money. But we have so many other to talk about in this subject. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.